I first entered Afghanistan in September 1988, with the Soviet occupation of the country in its final phase. In Pakistan, the Mujahideen officials informed us of a major operation about to take place east of Kabul and put us in contact with the area commander. We were told to wear Afghan clothing. Local Mujahideen leader Mohammed Anwar Jigdalak assigned Talib Nasri to guide us from Peshawar in Pakistan to the Jigdalak front east of Kabul. Anwar was fighting the Soviets, where his ancestors fought and destroyed the British Army of Occupation in its retreat from Kabul in 1842. Anwar was giving final orders to his commanders in preparation for a major attack on the Kabul-Jalalabad highway. Anwar said the purpose of the operation was to block the highway to test Soviet reactions. Would there be a Soviet ground attack? Or would it be left to the army of President Najibullah to break the blockade? At the commencement of the operation, the soldiers of Jihad kiss a Quran wrapped in a turban and pass beneath it on their way to the front line, physically and spiritually under their holy book. The attack began at dawn, with the Mujahideen assaulting government army positions hundreds of metres above the roadway. Simultaneously, other Mujahideen descended to the valley floor to destroy government positions there and to physically block the highway. An armoured car attempted to escape. It was immediately hit by multiple RPGs and began to burn. With the highway blocked, civilian traffic backed up. Nomads and their flocks moving to winter pasture, and trucks carrying supplies to Jalalabad. As fighting intensified, trucks turned around to get clear of the crossfire. The main government positions fell to the Mujahideen, leaving only small pockets of resistance to be eliminated. And by early afternoon, the fighting was largely over. Mujahideen gathered in small groups to talk about the attacks before climbing out of the valley. Anwar said casualties had been mercifully light, but he regretfully added that a nomad woman had been killed by a stray bullet. Around sunset, we met up again with Gul Roz. He told us that the Japanese woman, Naoko Nanjo, who had been photographing his attack on a government fort, had stepped on a landmine and bled to death. Tanks tried to break the blockade, without success. Late one afternoon, at extreme range, a rocket scored a hit on a tank's engine, setting it ablaze. The rocket's crew performed the traditional Pashtun dance, the Atan, in joyous celebration. The next morning, another rocket battery traded fire with enemy tanks. Some of the tank fire was uncomfortably accurate, until Talib Nasri got their range. They fired more high explosive, then pulled back, and fired white smoke rounds to indicate Mujahideen positions to Soviet jets. Several days later, a jet took out another rocket battery with a cluster bomb. The blockade held. I wasn't to see Talib again for 21 years. It is my 6th journey to Afghanistan. This is the first time in almost a decade, and the first time I've ever been in Kabul, the capital city. On my previous trips, it was inaccessible to me, occupied by the Soviets and their Afghan allies, or later by the Taliban. Today a new occupier is in town, and yet another phase of a war entering its 32nd year has begun, a digital phase. The sky over Kabul is dominated by the powerful cameras and sensors of the coalition's surveillance blimp. And even before I got here, I knew things had changed. I booked my hotel room and airport pickup over the internet. What I didn't know were the rules in this US-occupied Kabul. And for that I had to fall back on my extremely limited Persian. Eight years in the grave, and Ahmad Shah Massoud is still a presence here, in the city from which the Taliban ejected him in 1996, and to which he never returned. I encountered him on the front line at Bangui 1 year later, as he directed operations against the Taliban. I was documenting the lives of some of his Northern Alliance troops. Now I was returning to find out what had become of them, and the other soldiers I met over the years. I printed off a portfolio of some of the photos I had taken between 1988 and 2000. Additionally, I needed a driver and a translator, and found both of them in the one person at the Gandamak Lodge. Shirin Agha.
Ahmad Zahir. Yeah, it's okay. I know his voice, yes.
Ahmad Zahir, most beloved of all Afghan singers. Now an MP3 in digital surround. Stronger words. Harsh words. The right words for a tormented love song. Tangas Delam. Tight is my heart. But as the song progresses, the words change to Sangas Delam. Stone is my heart. Like a prophecy from the grave, 30 years after the singer was murdered.
Armed with machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades, at least 6 Taliban gunmen stormed the Intercontinental Hotel in the heart of Kabul.
Tonight, it was also hosting a senior-level meeting of Afghanistan's 34 governors. It's unclear how many of them were hurt or killed.
Shirin Agha hails from the Panjshir Valley, 100 kilometres north of Kabul, the main stronghold of Jamiat-e-Islami, and he easily acquired Izzat's phone number through the old Jamiat network. Izzat would be the key to finding all the men I had photographed in the war zones around Kabul. On my previous trips across Afghanistan, the only real way to find people was by word of mouth. Today the landscape is festooned with mobile phone towers. It seems every Afghan has a mobile phone. Today, the mobile network is the only telephone system in Afghanistan. The landline telephone network ceased to exist years ago. The cables had all been ripped up for scrap. The mobile towers stand unmolested, for all to use. Shirin Agha has made contact with Mullah Izzat at his Spojmai hotel on the Karga Lake on the outskirts of Kabul.
A Taliban attack on a hotel outside Kabul in Afghanistan has left 17 people dead. Out of those killed, at least 6 are reported to be civilians, with another 4 security guards. heavily armed insurgents stormed the Spozmai hotel, taking hostages including dozens of women and children.
In his mid-20s, Mullah Izzat inherited command of the Paghman Jamiati-Islami Front, after his elderly predecessor was killed in a Soviet attack. I first met Izzat in Peshawar in April 1991, and he attached me to a group of his mujahedeen travelling into Afghanistan, back to the Paghman Front. The Soviets had pulled out 2 years before, leaving behind the government of President Najibullah, former chief of Khad, the Afghan secret police. Now these men were fighting to overthrow that regime. There I met Isa, Bashir, Aman, Wazir, Qutbuddin, Haji Gak, Umar Khan, Rasul, Turialai, and dozens of others. So many of those men asked, "When are we going to see these photos you're taking?" Well, this time they were going to see them, and the photos in their turn would help me find the men.
امی رفیقای سابق خدا پرسان میکنه که باز یک جای اینا را جمع کنم که برا ببینشان.